All right, fans, I am joined now with former OVW heavyweight champion, also former OVW, I believe, two-time tag team champion, Southern tag team champion, that is, Smooth Johnny Spade. Johnny, how are you doing?
Hey, what's going on, people? I'm doing good. Oh, I've probably won every title they've had there, two times
you,
over.
you really have the former light heavyweight champion. Many people don't even realize maybe that there was even a OVW light heavyweight championship, and
There
so
was. I
that's
was actually the last person to hold it
yes, yes.
before it got retired,
Well,
and then somehow it got taken from the building. No one knows where that belt is.
right.
I promise you, if anybody watching, I don't have it.
Don't have.
It ain't me.
All right. So let's go to the beginning. When did you decide to get into the pro wrestling business?
I didn't really decide. I don't know, man. I was story I've told many times. I played college baseball and I came home and I've been a baseball player my whole life, football player, and I always loved wrestling. And I kind of looked up in the phone book and called Danny, and we met up. He, I knew he knew I was a college athlete, so he was excited. And then when he met me, I could tell I wasn't a big guy. And back then, which by the way, I mean, I am a big guy. I'm almost 6'1", 225 pounds, but to back then, I was considered a cruiserweight. Nowadays, these guys are way smaller than me. So it's a lot different world. But so back then, I guess Danny, he saw me in the ring and asked if I had done it before, and I said no. And I just picked it up, kind of like I remember Randy Orton picked it up pretty quick too when he was with me, and when he was down there training, it just came natural to me. I was really good. 3 months later, I'm wrestling in Louisville Gardens. Man, it was crazy.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Now, did you watch pro wrestling like growing up or anything? Did you
I
have
did.
any
I did.
favorites?
I did. Yeah. I mean, you always had your favorites. When you're a child in the '80s, everybody thought Ultimate Warrior looked cool, Sting looked cool, but I was always gravitated to Jake the Snake, and I loved Superfly. Man, I always wanted to come off the top, even though I was scared of heights, which you wouldn't know because I did a lot of high flying too when I
Yeah.
wrestled. But I was in the backyard with all my friends trying to be a wrestler and jumping off anything I could find because my finisher was the splash when I was a kid.
Mhm.
But
Did you have any like inspirations that you took like their um their moves or anything like you kind of styled
well,
yourself after?
yeah, I don't know what's a little bit. I've got a little bit of when you're talking a little bit of kind of like a reverberation type thing going on. But anyway, yes, obviously, I gravitated. They were wrestling at the time too. I tried to emulate Eddie Guerrero a lot. I had obviously with the way I don't know you've seen me work many times. I think right.
Yes. Yes.
Uh, I'm sure I have. There's a little road dog in there, obviously.
Oh, definitely.
Uh, but yeah, I mean, for the most part, that's I didn't try to be like everybody else. What I tried to do was take things that I saw, and I didn't want to be, oh, he's the next this guy or he's the next that guy. Smooth Johnny Spade was Smooth Johnny Spade, and what you saw is what you got. I mean, I was one of a kind in that way that I mean, yeah, I didn't want people to compare me. I wanted people to want to get compared to me. Does that make sense?
Oh, definitely, definitely. I love that answer right there. And I definitely, yeah, I could definitely see Road Dogg in you for sure.
Yeah,
Um,
I've heard that many a time or two.
especially like the juking and jiving type thing you did with your legs and everything.
Yeah, man, I used to do a lot of that, and I used to dance around and hit people with jabs and elbows, and
Yes.
I remember first time I wrestled with Earl Hebner was my ref. I can't remember who I was wrestling. I was in TNA, and he after the match, man, he was like, "Man, you remind me of a young Dusty Rhodes." That was a hell of a compliment for coming from Earl. I guess that's what he gravitated to because I'm sure he was more of that era.
Right, right, right. Who were you initially trained by?
Danny Davis, straight up, hands on.
What was that training like with Danny?
I was in a class, me and the Damaja, and a couple other people. Jerome Crony was one of them, but we were the cream of the crop of that class, me and the Damaja. So and Danny was one of my best friends. So he always kept us together. So Ed Jerome Crony or American Eagle, and for the most part, everybody else kind of they were there. I mean, there was people that would come in and out like Vito, but he was in the next class, and it was all right. I mean, I would go in there, and this is the beginners class, and we would learn the ropes. I would bump a lot, and he would always keep me at the front with Danny. He made sure that we were always linked together, and because he probably didn't want us to get hurt because we were being used on TV, number one, but number two, he wanted to make sure we were working with people that would be working with normally, and with us being the upper echelon of that class, we were his, I guess, valedictorians, so to speak.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Now, do you remember your first match? And if so, what was that like?
Yeah, it was electric because that's when Danny saw dollar signs. I had a guy named the Last Prophet Jason White, and he didn't last long, but we put a match together, and I remember we talked to Danny about it, and he was like, "Doesn't always go the way you think it's going to go." I guess he was impressed by what we put together, and I had a huge following. A lot of people showed up on my behalf. So it was my 20th or 19th or 20th birthday, and
Wow.
it was on Thanksgiving night. After Thanksgiving, uh, we stole the show, man, and it was incredible. It was electric, and I remember Danny was impressed. And I think my second match ever in my life was that following Tuesday at Louisville Gardens with Nick Dinsmore.
Wow. Oh, wow.
Yeah,
That's pretty awesome, man. That's awesome to hear that your first match went so well like that. That's really
it really did. You wouldn't believe it because normally people's first matches are I don't know if I can cuss, but they're the shits.
yeah, yeah. No, please.
Uh, but no, man, was all right. Um, and I was fortunate enough to, I think I got a big head because I didn't know I wouldn't put in my place yet. And so I had to pay my dues. I mean, I got whooped a lot. I protected myself and because I was given a lot early. People were like, "Who's this loudmouthed kid that Danny is pushing?" Well, Danny saw dollar signs and loved me, and other people were kind of like, "Shit, he's taking my spot." So I had to fight a lot, but um, I mean, I guess I wouldn't trade it. I had a good career, I guess.
Of course, exactly. While we're talking about matches, if you could pick three matches that you had in your wrestling career as your top favorites, what matches would you pick?
Hmm. I've asked similar questions before. There's just so many. Um, I I tore the house down with a lot of people. I'd have to say I had a year long or so angle with Jamin Olivencia. Um, me coming back to do him a favor. I never got to see that match. I heard it was amazing, and that wasn't even. We won twice. We won match of the year, so that wasn't even one of the match of the year matches. But I had all these people show up. It was kind of my going away. My daughter's mom was pregnant. It was 10 years ago, 9 years ago, something like that, and everybody showed up with these Johnny Spade shirts, and I was supposed to be a heel, but I had like 2/3 were just swarmed with my fans. So Jamin was struggling to keep himself over. So he had this elaborate entrance he came up with at the last minute. See, because he knew I had a lot of fans there that night. But there's a couple others. I mean, I had some good matches with Jason Lee. I had a hell of a match in a sold out Louisville Gardens with Sylvester Turkai against Brock Lesnar and Shelton Benjamin. Uh, we they moved us up to first on that card. They weren't expecting us to do as good as we did. It was the first time he did the shooting star press. We stole the show that night too. Kurt Hennig put me over that night. It was a good. It was a. I mean, those three are up there. I'd say.
Definitely, definitely. I love that you mentioned Jamin. We'll get to this match a little bit later, but one of my favorite, I love your matches, you and Jamin working together. But one
Yeah,
of my
we had
favorite
good.
matches was
Yeah,
the Iron Man match.
we had good chemistry.
You really did. You did.
Yeah, he was stiffer than hell, man. He hurt, but
I imagine.
but I could take it and I could give it right back, and we made it work. A lot of people would, I'm sure people would say that about me too, that I was pretty stiff. I worked hard and he worked hard.
Mm.
So when we got together, we didn't butt heads. We clicked and we made it work and people believed it because I mean, what you saw was what you got. I mean, we after my matches with Jamin, man, I left with bruises and I was bloodied, and none of that was done by myself. That was done from shots from him. We would fight out there. Um, but yeah, I mean, he definitely is at the top of the list for me. And I've wrestled the best in the world. I mean, I've wrestled
Definitely.
Randy Orton's, your John Cena's, your Brock Lesnar. I've wrestled everybody. So
Mhm.
for Jabin, but a lot of people think that I'm going to mention guys that were in WWE, and that's just not the case. I've had some really good matches against Orton before, and that was when he was green and I was leading him.
Yeah.
Um, but you know, but for the most part, Jamin's underrated. Him and I both should have got called up. It's unfortunate because we were probably two of the best talents that they had in there during that era.
100%, 100%. How did you come up with calling yourself Smooth Johnny Spade?
I don't remember. I think there's a bunch of names that I was trying to come up with, and I don't remember how I got Johnny Spade. And then people told me I was really smooth in the ring, and it just clicked, and it came to. And then WWE tried to change it to Pretty Fly for 1 month. I Once I got over with an angle with Cornette, I put a kibosh to that. So hell, I ain't no man, not Pretty Fly Johnny Spade. It was stupid as hell.
Pretty,
But yeah, but they so other than that, I'm probably one of the only guys that never had a name change. It was everywhere I went, people liked it, promoted it. They tried to use my name in WWE when I got released. It lasted for 1 week because there was too much uproar. Um, yeah, it was John Morrison. He was Johnny Spade for 1 week, and then they
oh,
changed
wow.
it. They changed it right back.
Wow. That's I agree. Smooth Johnny Spade definitely better than the other name they tried to give.
There was some, but for the most part, I was always Johnny Spade everywhere I went. Smooth was just a nickname, and it clicked, and it fit me, I guess. Uh, I don't think there'll ever will be, at least in our lifetime, another smooth Johnny Spade. There might be a Johnny Spade.
Right, right. No, for sure. What did it mean to you to win the OVW Light Heavyweight Championship against handsome Jason Lee?
That was cool. It was saying, "Hey, this kid's all right." And Jason was a good worker, and looked up to him a little bit at the time. So to be able to win my first title when you're young, of course it means something to you. You don't really know the extent of it. I was too young to understand, but it was cool. Yeah,
Definitely, definitely cool. You win it being the last light heavyweight champion of OVW for
I
sure as
was.
well.
Yeah,
Um,
pretty sure I was.
Moving into the Revolution, how did you find out you would be a part of the Revolution along with Machine Doug Basham, the
I did an angle.
Damaja,
Yeah,
Jackie, and Victoria?
yeah, we had a hell of a group. Um, uh, it was me and Sylvester Turkai, and they put us together as a tag team because I was doing an angle with Cornette, and I had to beat Shelton Benjamin to be on the roster. So they had him cheat for me, and they put us together, and then we became every week we were beating somebody up. I mean, we were just whooping people's ass, and we were bounty hunters, is what we were. And I was like, what is this going towards? And then come to find out, the person that was hiring us was going to be Doug Basham, and I knew it but he was going to wear a mask called the Machine, and it just kept working and working, and we got over, and we became a group. We just became the Revolution, and it was we were the only group I think in the wrestling magazines other than the NWO and D-Generation X that weren't on WWE or WCW that were up for Faction of the Year a couple times. We were pretty popular.
Definitely, and then somebody like even the Rob Conway ended up getting a part of the Revolution, and
Yeah, that was stupid.
Magnus, I believe, was part
Yeah,
of
he
it.
was he was the shits too.
Yeah,
I wasn't a fan of either one of those coming over.
really. Yeah,
Nah, nah. I mean, Rob's all right. He's all right guy, I guess. Mark just had a big head when he got over,
yeah, right.
and he didn't. I don't know, man. I wasn't a fan at that point. I was tuned out. The original group was where it was. I should have moved on with my character when they started coming in. I think that's when I parted ways with OVW for a while. Was at the when they started that run with us, it just wasn't the same without
Right.
Doug and Danny and myself. I feel like I was just the leftover guy.
Mm.
No
You mentioned
disrespect to Doug or Mark. I mean Mark or uh, Rob. It's just it
right.
wasn't at that point. It was just time for it to disband. The rejuvenated revolution wasn't the same.
Right. No, I can see that and agree with that. Can you talk about you mentioned Jim Cornette, the feud or angle you had with him? Can you talk about the fire Cornette campaign and uh, what that was like and how you came up with the promos and the everything with the backstage promos and all that
Well,
with, about
well, it's
the
yeah,
face spots?
yeah. Well, it was what happened was I did an interview on a talk show, and I wasn't supposed to be on that show. And at the time, I was kind of jobbing. I wasn't being used right, in my opinion, when WWE came in. So when I went on that podcast, I told, I think it was Jebediah Blackhawk. I said, "Watch what I do on this talk show." So I thought either I'm going to get fired or get a push. Let's put it that way. So I pretty much took over that talk show. And the next day when I came in, Jim Cornette went nuts. He was like, "That was amazing." Instead of getting fired, Stacy Cornette came up to me and was like, "Spade, that was over." So he decided, all right, we're going to use this dude because he's good. I don't think he knew what he had. And then he decided. So my first big angle was with Jim Cornette, who I looked up to. He was a legend in the business, and he was notorious for being able to talk. So when I got the opportunity to cut a promo on him, they gave me a script. I took parts of the script, but I said what I wanted to say in my own words. And then when we went in the back, Jim Cornette praised me, said that's how you make money. You go off script, but you keep it to the point. I told him to look in my eyes. It was a whole thing, man. From that point on, Jimmy always used me and pushed me hard. I had to overstep. I had to cross the line a little bit between real and not real to make people notice me. And I guess maybe sometimes it doesn't work. For me, it worked.
Yeah, I like that that was your first like major angle to
With WWE was
the
a
show.
part of it. Yeah, that was my first shoot, my first big angle with WWE affiliate was with
Mhm.
Jim Cornette. That was big for my career.
Definitely, definitely. Can you talk about your first time? Uh, can you talk about your first time in OVW and the WWE developmental days, and what the environment was like at the time versus after WWE developmental days, and how different of an environment it was with at the time being not being developmental, and then eventually becoming developmental for TNA.
Well, I was there right before developmental, then they took over, and it was like, wow. They came in like, I mean, one minute you're looking at a John Cena, and next minute you're looking at a Shelton Benjamin. The next day you walk in and there's a Dave Batista standing in the corner, and you're like, good God. It just every day, these just big, unbelievable talents are walking in the door. And you see other people's heads drop and they can't compete and they're quitting. And I just looked at it like it was a challenge. Um, I didn't care how big they were. I just wanted to find out. I knew, I wasn't an idiot. And I mean, I knew these guys could throw me around, but I knew if I could hang with them and if I could talk shit and get myself noticed, that these are the cream of the crop that future the business. And if I could hang with them, then I knew I could do it for real. But it was two totally different worlds. Second time around, TNA was kind of a part of it, and I was given the championship. Uh, I was more of a seasoned veteran. I had a little respect in the business, so I was a leader in the locker room. So guys like Rob Terry and you know, uh, but then I was wrestling guys like Doug Williams and
Yeah,
but when I was with WWE at the time, man, I mean, I was tag teaming with Canyon. I mean, I was tag teaming with Sylvester. I was wrestling your JBLs, um, your Rey Mysterios, your I mean, I was wrestling the best in the world. If Godfather was coming in to rehab his knee, they put him in the ring with me.
Mhm.
So I was kind of an enhancement talent.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, guys like Mark Henry,
Yeah,
things like that. Yeah.
I've ran into Mark last year. I mean, still great friend, gives me hugs, man. I go back with him, and I earned a lot of friendships. I was fortunate to be able to do it. Unfortunate, I guess, that I didn't really get to be on the national scene as much as I wanted.
Mhm. For sure. You definitely, I agree with you. You definitely, and I'm not just hearing it from you. I've heard plenty of people say that Johnny Spade should have been signed. He should have been signed.
Yeah,
When,
it puts a
it looked
sour
like
taste in
even
my
he was
mouth.
going to be signed to TNA.
I know. I was told I was too, and it never. I don't know what happened, man. I've asked Al Snow, Bruce Pritchard. I don't know. Danny's. You know, there was some rumblings in the office, and I was catching wind that I was going to TNA, and I toured with them. You know,
Yeah.
I went to some cities, but they never put me on TV.
Mm.
And every time I wrestled, crowd reaction was great. The memos were great. D'Lo Brown, like that was good shit, you know. And uh, it's not my decision, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, Now, one of my favorite shows, and I'm sure if longtime OVW fans are watching and listening, I'm sure their favorite shows was always the Six Flags Kentucky Kingdom shows. Do you have
Yeah.
any favorite moments from Six Flags?
Well, I've wrestled so many stars there. There's a joke in the back. I remember when Big Show slapped my back, and I had damage or somebody in a front face lock, and Show was trying to chop me, and it wasn't making a lot of sound. He even ripped my shirt, and so he just stepped over the ropes while I had him in front face lock. I never saw him coming, and he just, while I was laying on the ground, smacked my back. It put a handprint on my back, the size of both of our heads. And after the show, I went and had me something to eat and a beer, and they took a picture of my back and put it on their wall.
Oh,
Yeah,
oh wow.
this is Big Show's hand on Spade's back.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, I love the Six Flags shows. Those were some of the best shows back in those days. And then
Yeah,
eventually it became the Saturday Night Specials.
I
Um,
worked a lot of WWE guys on those shows.
yeah, yeah. I loved those shows for sure. Now, how did you find out you would be in a tag team with Shiloh Jones, and how did the team name OMG come to be?
We were just goofballs. Uh, how did that come about? Well, at first, when I started tagging with him a while back, I did a couple shows with OVW in between TNA run and the WWE run, and it was kind of I was mentoring type deal. We tagged together a few times, and we clicked. We were good friends. We laughed a lot, and so we had good chemistry. So started tagging with us, and we did a show on. We did a non PG show, like it was for like a burlesque type deal, and we were called the Dicks or something, the Johnsons,
Yeah,
and we had these socks in our pants to make our junk look bigger. It was a joke,
yeah,
and we got nutted, but it didn't work. We pulled out the socks, you know, and Al Snow popped. He loved it, but we couldn't do it for regular TV. So we did a toned down version and called ourselves OMG. And it lasted for a little bit, but then Al Snow decided to make me the champ, and so they had to part us. It wasn't a decision either one of us made. It was made for us. They were going to use me as their top guy, so they had to split us up.
right, right. And then under with OMG, you mentioned earlier you was one half of the OVW Southern Tag Team Champions. What was that like being Southern Tag Team Champions with Shiloh?
It was cool. I liked the belt had a lot of history. I Danny was like, "What? You've never worn them before?" I was like, "No." So I never had. We never had the tag straps when I was with Sylvester and all them. Even when I tagged with Canyon, when they never put the belts on us. So to win it with Shiloh, I guess was even greater because I did it with I was wrestling with some mainstream stars at the time, and they never put the belts on us. And then so this run, it I guess it felt pretty sweet because it was more work based on I've got a guy with star power. Let's put the belts on him. We earned those belts.
Definitely, definitely. Now you mentioned being OVW heavyweight champion. Can you talk about the Team OVW versus Team Joe VW cage match, where you would win the OVW heavyweight championship in the cage gauntlet match featuring Michael Hayes, James Moose Thomas, Trailer Park Trash, Abyss, and then yourself, of course, versus Team Joe VW, which would feature Bowen Services 2.0, Jason Wayne, and Rob Terry.
Yeah, was that the? Did I win the title with? Yeah, that was a gauntlet, wasn't it?
Yes, yes.
That was man. I got a huge reaction. So it was Abyss and Rob Terry, and they hadn't called my number yet. I was coming out, and Abyss, I think he slammed Rob Terry, but I remember I came out and the crowd went nuts. It was pretty cool. It was a good feeling. I had goosebumps, and Abyss was walking past me, and he goes, "Go get him, kid," because the crowd went. It was electric, and I just came in there, swanton him, a couple super kicks, and I won, and everybody was holding me up, and it was a good feeling, and I didn't have to do much, if that
Yeah,
makes sense. But the reaction was uh, made me feel very like it meant a lot to me to know that the people cared because they kind of saw what was coming, and they accepted me as it's Johnny Spade. We got him left. Everybody, it sucks when you don't get a reaction, and it meant something that the crowd was so excited because they knew here I still come, and that the pop was great, and the feeling was great. It was almost like I barely remember it. A swanton in the middle, held onto the cage. It was so fast, I almost blacked out. Really, it was just a moment that's hard to remember because it just went by in the blink of an eye in your mind. Uh, It was pretty cool.
yeah. I loved that match myself. Like I have it on DVD, and it's one of my favorite Saturday Night Special DVDs that I have. And so watching that whole show, and then to see Team OVW win with you becoming the OVW heavyweight champion, that was totally awesome for sure as
Yeah,
well.
I need to go back and check that one out.
Yeah, oh yeah. Um, Now, can you talk about working the 30-minute Ironman match with Jamin Olavencia?
That was phenomenal. Um, to be able to pull that off the way we did and tell a story the way we did, uh, not a lot of people could do that for that long of a time, especially following a Nightmare Rumble. Um, and for us to be able to keep the crowd entertained and invested for that long, it was a special time for me. And the story that we wanted to tell, or Al came up with most of the story, and then we incorporated bits and pieces. But um, to execute it the way we did was special for me and my career and Jamin's because the boys in the back, the girls in the back, we call them the boys, but that means anybody and everybody, from production to wrestlers to anybody. They all were watching it from the TV screen. It was that was a that was a special match. It was, yeah.
Yeah, I remember being there in person that night, and think I had like first or second row on the side where you came out, because I know they had at that time OVW still had the heel entrance and then the
Yeah,
babyface. So
right.
I was front row on that side where the baby faces came out, where you came out, and I remember, yeah, that y'all had us hooked that whole match, that whole 30 minutes. Y'all had
Yeah,
us
because
hooked, and it's so back and forth.
he went on top, I think 4 something to nothing, 4 falls to 0, and then I just boom, 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 caught up like that. And
Yeah,
then all the way to the end, man, we were back and forth. It was a slow build, and then I mean, it was that was a special night for me.
definitely, definitely. And I was just like, I was just enjoying it, watching it, and then just, of course, I'm the type that I love taking pictures of every show I go to, just about. And so I'm getting all these shots. I'm trying to get all these shots of the match.
Al
And
Snow got pissed at us because he said we went into business for ourselves after the match because we hugged each other, and then I had to turn around and get a spear from Crimson,
Crimson there. Uh,
but he didn't want us hugging each other. I guess I don't know. But when you fight like that for that long, it's I don't know, man. There was just a bond that was created between us. It was like a congratulatory. It meant something to both of us.
definitely, definitely. Can you talk about your feud with, and what it was like working with Doug Williams?
Oh, he's just phenomenal, consummate professional. Uh, I mean, he's an English legend, and I think when he was down here, they didn't put him with just anybody. They had to put him with people that could work, that weren't going to hurt him, people he respected and trusted. So I think I was his only big angle. Uh, and so we just worked together a lot. We just found different ways to do it. I worked him in a cage. I did a gentleman's match. We just kept working each other because it was working. It gave us both something to do without having the belts. And it's two stars that we can put on TV that'll draw ratings still. So we'll just keep them together over in the corner so we can do other stuff. It was a way for them to find something else for the both of us and get us invested so they could have good talents on the show, but still have focal points with other angles for the belt. See what I'm saying?
Right, exactly. Yeah, and I love the story that y'all told too in that. And then I remember there was one of the matches at a Saturday Night Special, I believe it was, where y'all was scheduled to have a match, but he like no showed or something like that, and you end up having to wrestle. I forget who you end up having a match with.
Was it that I think it was that Joe Rosa and
Yes, I
Big
think it was.
Jose?
Yeah.
I know that because I lived with Jose. He was one of my roommates at the time.
Wow.
And and I kicked him and he started to get up. And I go, "Why are you getting up?" So I had to kick him again. That was a shoot.
Oh wow.
That wasn't
Wow.
supposed to happen. His dumbass started getting up, and so I kicked him, so I had to kick him again. And he said if he would have got up again, Al said you need to kick his teeth down his throat if he gets up again. I said stay down, motherfucker. It was excuse my language if anybody. Sometimes I cuss. I do apologize.
Oh, you're good.
I'm a good guy though. I promise.
You're good. Uh, what was it like to be a part of and win the OVW Nightmare Rumble?
It was a surprise. I didn't know I was going to win. They asked me to come back, and Jamin had never beat me before. So I was coming back to do a favor for him. At this point, I knew TNA wasn't going to sign me because I was told I was already going to be signed. So I left because I had a baby on the way, and I was coming. I had an injury too, uh, but it's a story for another time. So I had some words with Michael Hayes on Twitter. He kind of pissed me off. I thought I was going to fight him in the back, and then I came in as a favor. They asked me to come back. I didn't call and try to go back to OVW. So for anybody who's speculating that this is the story that happened. So I came back uh, and I thought I was doing an appearance and they were going to work an angle and wanted me to work. Maybe it was Jamin or Marcus. It was one of the two. It might have been Marcus, I think. Marcus. Because I beat him in a loser leaves town to go to WWE.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
they had me come back to put him over, is what they were
mm,
doing. So I won the. Well, when I came in, I didn't know I was going to win. I just thought I was doing an appearance. And I walked in. I wasn't a part of the roster. I walked in. They go, "Yeah, you're going to be going over tonight." I said, "I went in the whole thing." And I said, "Yeah." And then we're gonna have Timmy Danger come out with Marcus. Then you're gonna kick him. That's gonna set up the big angle for you all, so he can beat you to get retribution for when you beat him for loser leaves town. So I was doing him a favor type deal. Marcus is a great guy. Timmy, I like Timmy too. So I had no problem coming back and helping Marcus out. It was the second time I'd done that. I did that for Jamin previously as well. Uh, that was the match I was telling you about with the Johnny Spade shirts. But
yeah.
so with Marcus, I didn't know I was going to win. So it was kind of, I was just going out there having a good time. It was fun. I was hanging out with the boys and called my name, and friends and family got to see me again, and everybody was cheering. And I wasn't as in shape. I wore a t-shirt. I was just having a great time. I was dancing around, having fun. And yeah, I ended up being the winner. And I guess I guess some of the boys didn't like it. I did get some praise. I know Ryan Howe came up to me afterwards and said, I was kind of upset that you were coming back, because it's everybody's spot and then you're winning. Said, but the electricity changed when your music played and you came out. He goes, I understand why they push you. It makes, like, when I'm out there, I can see the different vibe that goes on when you go to the ring. So I was like, man, I appreciate that. So it was a good compliment coming from him, one of my peers, because I didn't want guys to be upset that I was taking spot or coming in thinking I was going to be on top. Oh, here comes Spade again. No, I was asked to do it. I came in to do a favor. That's pretty much what happened. I didn't lobby for anything. I didn't push for it. But it was also a detriment to my career for them to ask me to do that. You know what I mean?
Right, right.
So that's the story for that Nightmare Rumble. It was fun though. I had a great time. It was a fun surprise. How's that?
There you go. There you go. Fun surprise. Who were some of your favorite people to work with in OVW just throughout the years?
Oh, well, obviously Jamin Alavencia. I always had good chemistry with Randy Orton. Uh, man, I don't want to name names that I'll forget. Obviously, I was good with Shallow. I mean, uh, oh gosh, trying to think here. I mean, I worked so many people over the years, and if you brought one to my attention, I'd go, "Oh yeah, he was great," or "He was great," or
What about like a Johnny Jeter or
Jeter was fantastic. I worked with him all the time. Even in practice, me and Jeter together. Me and him would train together. Excuse me, I don't want people to see my eyes. For those of you in the people watching and you might be unfamiliar, I have a disease now that has caused me to lose my eyesight. So my eyes look like Frankenstein eyes, basically. So if you see that, I apologize. Uncensored, censored. Anyway, Johnny Jeter was fantastic. He was. I mean, he's still a good friend. I still talk to him every now and then. He's living over in California. He's got a little wrestling school going, and he's got I think a 2-year-old child now, and he's
yeah?
got a good family. He's just a good dude, man. That was a good name to bring up.
I have to bring up this name because just because I'm so good friends with them and I've become friends with
Oh,
them.
hold on.
Yeah.
You got an emergency broadcast going off on our phones.
Oh no.
I don't know what that's about. I will read that after we're done.
Yeah, now it's going off over Amber Alert or something.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
You can see it better than I can. I've got to get my magnifying glass out.
But while we're because I'm become so good friends with them, so
Yeah.
it'd be crazy if I didn't ask about this man,
Sure, go ahead. Yeah.
Chris Cage. Do you have any
He's a good dude.
match? Um,
Yeah, man. Chris worked him a lot, man. He's a good person and a solid worker, and he's a great human being. Period. Uh, I mean, I have nothing bad to ever say about that man.
definitely, definitely.
About his work, about him as a person, his kindness. He's just a genuinely good guy and a great worker.
There you go. What about this one, Matt Morgan?
He's good. He was a big dude, athletic, good work. I mean, we got along and we didn't. We had some
Yeah.
moments in the back, but for the most part, I had no problems with Matt. He was a solid guy.
All right, all right. Well, moving on from OVW, we're gonna talk real quick about USWF. I know you were a tag team champion with the Prophet as the as Club Spade. What was that like being USWF tag team champions?
It was fun. Ben was great. He was a good worker. We had a good time. We traveled a lot, worked together a lot. And at the time, I was engaged to Miss Hollywood, so she was walking us to the ring. So I got to have fun with her. That was an enjoyable time for me. Uh, Ben, we had some memorable matches. We had some knockout dragouts. USWF. That's Rated X Jimmy Wall's show. He's a good friend of mine. That's where I did my meet and greet this past week. Well, he was a part of that. He was kind of mixed in. Um, he used us, and for a while there, we were drawing really well down down Southern Kentucky, man. We had a good thing going. We were working Fat and the Furious, Zodiac, Tom, which would be Miss Mass Superstar. I probably shouldn't say that. but no one knows who he is. I mean, as far as I didn't say his last name, you know what I mean? Um, but we were having some great matches. Uh, good crowds. It's a great time, a lot of fun.
Definitely, definitely. And as you mentioned, you got to recently go to do an appearance and meet and greet there at USWF, the Mama Bruiser Memorial Show.
I
What was
did.
that
Vic's.
like?
It was good, man. Vic's a good friend. Myself, I think, and Wolfie D were doing a meet and greet. Then they had, of course, your regular people were signing autographs. Dean Hill made an appearance. It was Vic's a good friend. We go way back. I've had another guy just wasn't a part of OVW too much, but another guy I've wrestled many, many times. He's kicked my ass all over 3 different states, probably.
Yeah,
Uh,
Victor Bruiser, awesome,
yeah,
awesome.
man, that's a guy we didn't even mention. That's on my list. I mean, I've gone through tables, had dog collar matches, just left beaten, battered, and bruised. I fought him on the top of a roof in Indiana.
Oh, wow.
It's yeah, yeah. I've got some stories with him. But anything that I can do to help, he was fortunate enough to let me bring my daughter so she could see the ropes. I think we mentioned before the show she's going to be training at OVW. We'll see. Hopefully, she'll be better than I, and she'll have a great career. So for the most part, I'm trying to do some meet and greets and some appearances and show her the ropes as much as I can. And that's one of the places that we went. She got to meet everybody, and everybody was really kind. She got to hear stories, see how things are done, and that was one of my main goals. And goal accomplished, I guess.
For sure, for sure. And speaking of, well, let me ask you this before I jump into this next question. Is there anything in your wrestling career that you would change or go back and redo if you had the chance to? And if so, what and why?
Yeah, uh, I would have lobbied harder. I would have got myself in WWE. I don't think I started to do it for fun, and I didn't realize how good I was when I was young. And when I look back now, I mean, I was wrestling guys that were on Monday Night Raw all the time, and I should have put more effort into the business aspect and got myself called up. And many agents, many backstage talents told me I was good enough, told me I should be there. There's no issues. Terry Taylor's had some strong words for me. And I just probably just young and dumb. And know I was young and dumb and too caught up in living in this is also my hometown where the developmental was. I was probably drinking. I was. Well, I mean, I wasn't a raging alcoholic or anything, but I was leaving the shows, going out at night, you know, wanting to meet girls. You're on TV, and I'm
Hmm.
young. I didn't get it. It was just all handed to me. If I could go back, I would have the mind that I did when I was in my 30s, and when I should have gone to TNA, and I know for a fact I would have had I would have had at least I don't know how long, but I would have had a career in WWE for sure. I was the only Revolution member not called up,
Mm, wow,
which it's not a
definitely.
sad story. It's my own
No,
fault, is what I'm saying. You know what I mean?
yeah,
In
and
my
that makes
opinion.
sense.
And if
I,
I could
I
go
mean,
back, I would. I would
you
go
live
back
and
and
you
take it more
learn.
serious.
You live and you learn.
Yeah, and it just I was still a kid, immature-minded kid, and if I could go back and be a man about it, I would have gotten called up for sure. I don't think there's any doubt. I mean, I've still got friends that are there. You said, yeah, you should have got called up. Who knows that I could have been on the roster? And we talk.
Definitely.
We've mentioned it a few times. It's life's things happen for a reason, and I live a good life now. So it is what it is.
There you go. There you go. You mentioned about your daughter getting ready to be training at OVW. So this is a great question right here. What is the best advice you like to give young talent coming up in the business, or to someone with an interest, desire, or passion to get into the wrestling business?
Don't be like Johnny Spade. No, no. It's seriously when I say that as a joke, but don't get caught up like I did. You know, if you're going to do it for real, you need to learn the business aspect of it. Travel, get your name out there, get social media. If not, you're doing it for fun. Treat it like a softball weekend. Make sure you take care of your life outside of it. You get into what you put in. If you really want to make it, you need to work hard, harder than the other guy, because you know thousands and thousands of people want to be wrestlers, probably every year. Out of those, what 0.05% will make it to the bigs, and by bigs I
Mhm.
mean you're going to make six figures and a living off of it. So for the most part, if that's what you want to do, you need to work harder than every guy out there or girl, depending on what you desire. But the harder you work, at least you know you did everything you could to get there.
Definitely great advice right there. Definitely great advice. Any upcoming appearances or shows that you're going to be at that you would like to promote?
I've got a one for Too Tough Tony and Reverend Ronnie up in Jeffersonville coming up. And, Ronnie actually works for OVW, but he trains up at Grindhouse, and I think they're doing like I've never really, since I've got this rare disease that I've got now. I never really got to say goodbye, so it's kind of a me telling my story to the crowd for the first time since I got this rare disease. For those of you who don't know, I've got Steven Johnson syndrome. It's caused me to lose my eyesight, and I'm lucky to be alive. But now that I'm alive, it's like living a second life now. I'm just getting acclimated to it. It's just one of those unfortunate things that hit me, and but I'm healthy. I'm good, and it's just me really telling my story, I guess. And we'll see if somebody decides they want to interrupt wrestling. It is wrestling. We'll see what happens. I might bring my daughter in the ring. Who knows?
There you go. There you go. Fans, if you're in the area, and check it out. We'll post as we know information about it. We'll post it and on our social media and everything, and on our pages and support. Go support Johnny in
Thank you.
this and go hear his story.
That will be. Let me turn that off. I'm getting a phone call real quick.
Yeah.
It's cool music, huh?
Hey,
Uh, yeah, right. Little Star Wars action. So yeah, it's going to be December 17th. It'll be Sunday, I believe. Bell time is maybe they do afternoon shows. I think it'll be about 3ish. Could be wrong. 4 or 5. I think it's 3. But uh, I'm sorry, I wasn't prepared for
oh
that.
yeah, because this will be their Christmas show, Grindhouse Christmas show.
Oh,
Then
is it?
the
See, I didn't even.
17th, yes, three
Okay,
o'clock. Yeah.
cool.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and it's nice of them to let me be a part of it. And from what I've always known of Ronnie and Tough, they're not they're good people.
Definitely, definitely, definitely good people. I love Too Tough Tommy, and then Ronnie. He's a alumni of the show here, and so yeah, definitely love Grindhouse. Shout out to Grindhouse. Um,
Shout out to Grindhouse. That's what's up.
yes, and go fans go over there and check out Grindhouse. And go see Johnny Spade over at Grindhouse on the 17th, 3 o'clock bell time. And how can fans find you on social media?
For the most part, I mean I've got at real Johnny Spade still on Twitter, but I don't use it anymore. Or X, I guess it is now. I haven't used it in years since I quit working. Uh, really, I'm just my shoot name is Josh Adams, and I'm on Facebook. I don't really since once you retire from the sport, I don't promote myself that much. Who knows? Maybe next time I talk to you, I'll have a little more. I was a part of a podcast for a while, but we've had to slow production because the people I was with, they're also actors and actresses, and so they had to do some movies and whatnot. But um, I haven't really had much social media access lately. Kind of been playing the quiet game and quietly retired. But with this rejuvenation of my daughter, I might make a small comeback and just with some appearances and things like that. Nothing major. I mean, obviously with this syndrome, you're not going to see me in the ring anytime soon. I might be in the ring with do a little talking, but we'll see. But I don't know
It's
if I'm
always
good.
good to make appearances and
Yeah,
stuff
you're not
like
going to
that.
see any Iron Man matches or anything coming up
I don't
soon.
know. If a promoter is out there and is interested in bringing you in to do a meet and greet on their next show, how can they do that? And how how can they get in contact with you?
You can get in contact with me. Hit me up on Facebook. It's Joshua Adamson, uh, Joshua Adamson. I might have a nickname that's not promoted on there, so if you type in Johnny Spade, that also might come up. You can DM me through that. You can get a hold of Ryan here. He knows how to DM me if you need to do that way. For the most part, there's not too many people in the business who don't know who I am. So if you say, "Hey, how do I get in touch with Johnny Spade?" Well, he knows such and such. So you could probably also word of mouth find a way to reach me. It wouldn't be hard.
Definitely, definitely. If you reach out to me here at the Final Count or on my personal page as well, you can. I'll definitely get you in contact with Johnny. So definitely not a problem. And Johnny, I'd like to again thank you for coming on this week's spotlight, and you're welcome to come back anytime, sir.
Thank you, man. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. You all take care out there. All right.